Have you ever wondered why some families keep their wealth for centuries, while others lose it all in just a few generations? Statistics show that many traditional families lose 70% of their wealth by the second generation and a massive 90% by the third. The difference isn't luck or intelligence. It is a simple, ancient three-number code found in the Bible and Jewish tradition: 33, 33, 33. The big lie of modern diversification. Your financial advisor probably told you to diversify by spreading your money across stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You think you are safe. You are not. According to ancient wisdom, stocks, bonds, and savings accounts are all the exact same thing. They belong in a single bucket. If you have all your money there, you are just one market crash away from losing everything. The ancient Hebrews did not guess with percentages like 60, 40, or 70, 30. They divided their wealth into three equal buckets. Land, 33%, preserves wealth. Business, 33%, generates income. Liquid, 33%, captures opportunities. The three buckets explained. 1. The land bucket, 33%. This is anything fixed to the earth that you own directly: real estate, farmland, or housing. Why it matters: governments can print money, but they cannot print land. Land protects you from inflation. The rule: your primary home only counts if it represents 33% or less of your total net worth. 2. The business bucket, 33%. This means owning a piece of an actual operating business that makes a profit. Why it matters: businesses can raise prices when inflation goes up and adapt to changes. This bucket creates your active income. Note: buying Apple stock does not count here. Stocks are paper claims, which belongs in the next bucket. 3. The liquid bucket, 33%. This is anything you can turn into cash within 30 days. Cash, savings accounts, short-term bonds, and stocks. Why it matters: this bucket isn't just for safety, it is for offense. When a crash happens, you use this cash to buy land and businesses at huge discounts. Prologue: the tale of two destinies. In the autumn of 1929, two men walked the bustling, brick-paved streets of New York City. They lived in the same neighborhood, earned the exact same income, and possessed identical fortunes, exactly $100,000 each, which was an immense sum of money at the time. The first man was Mr. Smith, a highly respected Christian banker. He dressed in tailored suits and prided himself on following the cutting-edge financial advice of his era. He looked at the roaring stock market and put every single dollar into the finest blue-chip companies of America, U.S. Steel, General Electric, and RCA. His financial advisors smiled and assured him that his wealth was perfectly secure. The second man was Mr. Cohen, a quiet Jewish immigrant who had arrived in America with little more than a suitcase and a deeply rooted tradition. Mr. Cohen did not trust modern trends. Instead, he followed an ancient law taught to him by his father, who learned it from his grandfather, tracing back through generations. He split his $100,000 into three rigid, equal parts. Then came October 1929. The stock market buckled, cracked, and completely shattered. By 1932, the market had lost 89% of its value. Mr. Smith watched his $100,000 shrink to a mere $11,000. Because he had no other sources of income, he was forced to sell his remaining stocks at the absolute bottom just to buy groceries and pay rent. Within 36 months, his generational wealth was completely wiped out. He took a low-paying job as a clerk, died in poverty, and his grandchildren never even knew his name. Mr. Cohen's stock portfolio suffered the same 89% drop, shrinking his cash and stock bucket down to a painful $3,700. But his other two buckets were completely safe. His rental properties still brought in cash every month, and his small grocery store partnership continued to generate regular profits. Mr. Cohen didn't panic. In fact, he used his remaining cash to buy up properties from desperate sellers at pennies on the dollar. By 1940, His wealth had multiplied to $350,000. When he passed away, his children and grandchildren inherited a massive, unbroken fortune that still takes care of his family today. Why do some families lose everything in a single generation, while others preserve their wealth for over 100 years? The difference is not luck. It is not intelligence. It is a simple number code, 33, 33, 33. Chapter 1. The Secret of the Three Numbers. For centuries, a shocking statistic has haunted families across the Western world. Christian families lose 70% of their wealth by the second generation and a staggering 90% by the third generation. It is a tragic cycle of rags to riches and back to rags again. Yet, right alongside this trend, Jewish families have masterfully preserved their family wealth through every imaginable disaster, wars, economic collapses, persecutions, and depressions for over 3,000 years. The secret lies in an absolute, non-negotiable legal formula for allocating money. King Solomon, the wealthiest king to ever live, originally encoded this formula into the biblical book of Ecclesiastes. Centuries later, ancient Hebrew scholars solidified it directly into the Talmud, the central text of Jewish civil and religious law. The Talmud states a beautifully simple rule. A person should always divide his money into 3 parts. 1/3 in land, 1/3 in business, and 1/3 liquid in hand. This is not a flexible suggestion. This is a strict financial law. It does not allow for a ratio of 40, 40, 20, or 30, 50, 20. It demands exactly 33%, 33%, and 33%. Think of it as a 3-legged stool. If one leg is missing, the stool collapses completely. If one leg is too long, the stool becomes unstable. But when all 3 legs are perfectly equal, the stool can support immense weight without ever tipping over. This simple, ancient formula has successfully protected families through the fall of Babylon, the collapse of Rome, the Great Depression, the crash of 2008, and every major economic crisis in human history. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Modern Diversification. If you speak to a modern financial advisor today, they will always give you the same standard advice. You need to diversify your portfolio. Spread your money across a healthy mix of stocks, mutual funds, and bonds. You trust them. You follow their instructions. You look at your retirement account, your 401k, your IRA, and your emergency fund, and you truly believe you are safe. But ancient biblical law looks at your stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds, and your savings account, and sees them all as the exact same thing. They all belong to one single category, liquid assets. This means that if you are like 95% of hard, working people today, you have nearly all of your wealth sitting inside one single bucket. You are not diversified at all. You are highly concentrated. You are exactly one major market crash away from losing everything your family has built, leaving your future grandchildren with nothing left to inherit. When the crash of 2008 arrived, these diversified portfolios lost 40% to 60% of their value in months. When the panic of 2020 struck, the market plunged 30% in just 30 days. Modern financial advisors tell you to hold on, rebalance once a year, and hope for the best. But hope is not a financial strategy. The ancient Hebrews did not guess, and they did not hope. They relied on exact numbers. Why did they choose 3 buckets instead of 2 or 4? 2 buckets create total instability. If one bucket crashes, you immediately lose half of your entire net worth. 4 or 5 buckets dilute your focus. It becomes impossible for a family to manage that many moving parts with excellence. 3 is the biblical number of ultimate completeness. There are 3 parts to time: past, present, and future. And there are 3 distinct buckets required to protect a family's legacy: land, business, and liquid. Chapter 3. Bucket 1. The unshakable foundation of land. The land must not be sold permanently, because the land is mine. Leviticus 25, verse 23. The first bucket is land. This includes anything fixed directly to the earth that you own with no middlemen. Physical real estate, fertile farmland, commercial buildings, or mineral rights. Land is an asset that cannot be moved, cannot be deleted by a computer glitch, and cannot be printed out of thin air by a corrupt government. Land holds intrinsic, permanent value. In the 1920s, the nation of Germany experienced hyperinflation. The government printed paper currency so fast that money became entirely worthless. A single loaf of bread quickly cost 200 billion marks. People who held their wealth in paper savings, stocks, and bonds were completely wiped out overnight. But those who owned physical land and buildings survived with their wealth intact. The paper currency had failed, but the earth beneath their feet remained. Today, your land bucket should include residential properties, your primary home, or raw land, but only up to 33% of your total net worth. Here is the common trap. Many families have 80% of their net worth tied up in their family home. This is dangerous concentration, not safety. If the real estate market crashes, their entire world shatters. Conversely, if your land bucket holds less than 33%, you are completely exposed to the hidden tax of inflation. Land is designed to pass down seamlessly from father to son to grandson. It preserves your purchasing power across centuries, ensuring your family always has a home base. Chapter 4, Bucket 2, the engine of living business. While land is excellent at preserving your wealth, it has a major flaw. It does not inherently produce fast, active cash flow. That is the job of the second bucket, business. The business bucket consists of direct equity ownership in operating companies that create real goods or services. This does not mean buying regular shares of Apple or Microsoft on a public stock exchange. Public stocks belong in your liquid bucket because they can be bought and sold in seconds. The business bucket means actual partnership or ownership in cash, flowing companies, whether it is your own company, a local repair shop, a medical practice, private equity, or intellectual property royalties. Business is a living entity that naturally adapts to the economy. If inflation forces prices to rise, a good business simply raises its prices to match. If technology changes, a business pivots to survive. King Solomon did not just collect taxes, he ran massive global businesses. The Bible records that he built a grand merchant fleet of ships that sailed the seas, trading goods, and bringing back 420 talents of gold from distant shores. This was active commerce that generated a steady, reliable income. During the Great Depression, the stock market collapsed by nearly 90%. Paper stock certificates became completely worthless. Yet, local grocery stores, hardware shops, and farms continued to operate. Their profits were lower, yes, but they still brought in cash every single day. The families who owned actual operating businesses survived the Depression comfortably, while those who only held stock certificates lost their homes. Business is the active engine that generates the fresh cash flow required to buy more land and fund your lifestyle. Chapter 5, Bucket 3, the liquid weapon of opportunity. The third and final leg of the stool is the liquid bucket. This includes anything that can be successfully converted into hard cash in less than 30 days. Physical cash, savings accounts, money market funds, public stocks, short-term bonds, and physical gold or silver bullion. Most people view liquid cash as a safety net to hide under during a storm. But the ancient biblical strategy treats liquid wealth as an offensive weapon to capture massive opportunities. When a massive economic crisis strikes, the values of land and businesses drop by 50% or more. Desperate people are forced to sell their valuable assets for pennies on the dollar just to survive. During these precise moments, the person who holds exactly 33% of their wealth in liquid cash becomes the absolute king of the market. They can step into the chaos and buy prime real estate and highly profitable businesses for an absolute bargain. 10 years later, those exact same assets will appreciate 10 times over. King Solomon kept massive reserves of physical gold stored safely in his treasury. He didn't leave it there out of fear. He kept it so that if a famine hit, a war broke out, or an incredible trading opportunity appeared, his capital could move instantly. Benjamin Graham, the legendary mentor of Warren Buffett, discovered this exact same rule. He famously advised keeping 25% to 50% of your portfolio in cash during booming bull markets so you have the power to buy aggressively during crashes. Warren Buffett follows this exact model today, constantly holding tens of billions of dollars in pure cash, waiting patiently for the next economic panic. If you keep too much money in liquid cash, inflation will slowly eat it alive. If you keep too little, you will be helpless when a crash occurs. Exactly 33% gives you the perfect amount of ammunition to build wealth during a crisis. Chapter 6. Decoding King Solomon's Secret Math. Where exactly is this formula hidden within the scriptures? Let us pull back the curtain on the book of Ecclesiastes. Ship your grain across the sea. After many days you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures. Yes, in 8. For you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Ecclesiastes 11 verses 1 and 2. For generations, many modern readers have viewed this verse as a nice piece of symbolic poetry about being generous. But Jewish legal tradition has always known the truth. This is advanced allocation mathematics. Let us break down Solomon's code piece by piece. Ship your grain across the sea. This represents active business, international trade, and bold merchant commerce. After many days you may receive a return. This teaches a patient, long-term generational mindset, completely rejecting the modern urge for day trading and quick riches. For you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. This is your structural insurance policy. When a disaster strikes one specific asset class, your other 2 buckets are perfectly positioned to preserve your family's safety. Invest in 7 ventures. Yes, in 8. This is the command for subdivision within your 3 major buckets. Solomon is not telling you to diversify across completely different asset categories. He is telling you to split up your investments within each specific bucket. Do not take your 33% land allocation and buy one single rental property. Split it among 2 or 3 different locations. Do not take your 33% business allocation and risk it all on one company. Divide it into a couple of independent ventures. When you maintain these 3 distinct buckets and subdivide them into 7 or 8 total positions, you create an unbreakable financial shield that no earthly crisis can penetrate. Chapter 7. The Blueprint, your 5-year rebalancing protocol. Now that you understand the ancient wisdom of the 33-33-33 rule, you must take a look at your current financial life. If you are like most people, you will quickly realize that you are completely out of balance. You likely have 90% of your net worth trapped in the liquid bucket, 401k, IRA, and savings, 10% in your home equity, and 0% in active business ownership. You must fix this layout, but you cannot rush the process. If you sell all your stocks tomorrow to buy real estate, you will trigger massive taxes and destroy your net worth. Instead, you must implement a careful, strategic 5-year rebalancing protocol. The action steps. Step 1. Calculate your true net worth. Liquid assets plus physical land assets plus private business equity equals total wealth. Step 2. Find your deficiencies. Compare your current percentages against the 33-33-33 biblical standard. Step 3. Redirect new capital. Stop feeding overfunded buckets. Route 100% of new savings into underfunded buckets. Step 4. Execute gradual rebalancing. Slowly transition capital out of your liquid assets over 5 years to minimize taxes. How to build your land bucket, even with limited capital. Crowdfunded farmland. Use trusted modern platforms to buy fractional ownership of actual, working physical land with low minimums. House hacking. Purchase a multi-family property, live comfortably in one unit, and rent out the others to cover your entire mortgage. Real estate partnerships. Pool capital with trusted family members or friends to acquire solid rental properties together. How to build your business bucket without business experience. Silent partnerships. Invest capital as a silent partner into a successful, growing business run by an experienced entrepreneur. Small business crowdfunding. Invest directly into local, revenue-generating businesses for equity and regular profit distributions. Royalty acquisitions. Buy fractional shares of intellectual property, music catalogs, or patents that generate consistent cash flow. Epilogue. A legacy for the third generation. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. Proverbs 13 verse 22. Notice the profound timeline established by the scriptures. A good steward does not just build wealth for themselves, or even for their children. Their vision expands all the way to their grandchildren. If you choose to keep 90% of your wealth sitting in a volatile modern portfolio, a sudden market crash will eventually come and shrink your assets. Your children will inherit a damaged portfolio, repeat your mistakes, and your grandchildren will be left with absolutely nothing. But when you step up, break away from conventional advice, and balance your life into the 3 biblical buckets, you alter the course of your family's history forever. A century from now, your great-grandchildren will still own appreciating land, still collect profits from resilient businesses, and still deploy cash to seize incredible opportunities during market crashes. They will not just look at your picture on the wall. They will know your name, honor your choices, and call your memory blessed. A prayer for divine wealth and wisdom. If you are able, quiet your mind, step away from the noise of the world, and align your heart with this prayer for generational stewardship. Father, Lord of all creation, we come before you today as humble stewards of the resources, talents, and wealth you have placed into our hands. We confess that for too long, we have followed the unstable advice of the world, concentrating our wealth in a single bucket and calling it safety. We have gambled with the future of our descendants. Give us the clear vision to see our finances honestly today. Grant us the deep courage to change direction and the steady discipline to rebalance our wealth according to your timeless design. 1/3 in land, 1/3 in business, and 1/3 in liquid reserves. Where we lack the capital to buy land, open doors of clean partnership. Where we lack the experience to run a business, bring trustworthy operators into our lives. Where we fear the process of change, protect our hearts with your perfect peace. Multiply the work of our hands. Protect our land from the decay of inflation, bless our businesses with continuous cash flow, and keep our liquid reserves ready to act with courage whenever opportunity calls. Let our family legacy endure for generations to come, built entirely upon your structural truth. In the name of Jesus Christ, Amen.